everybody. That was really
Hello.
intense.
Wow.
That was really intense. Sorry. I think I'm overcompensating.
I was waiting for everyone to respond, and they didn't. And then I was like, oh, it's right. It's me.
You are listening to What If Nothing's Wrong With You? I am Paula D. Atkinson.
I am Lisa KK's. I always feel like I never use my middle initial, but when you do the D, I feel like I have to mirror.
I love Lisa KK's. And this is Nemeka, who just had his birthday. Happy birthday, Nemeka. He's our Virgo.
Happy birthday.
Yay. Now we're all 48 now, right?
Yep.
Yeah. You pulled me about this. You are 48.
Yes.
You will be 49 next August.
Yes. I was so relieved because you brought up something about 50 and it sounded, and then my husband was like, but you're not about to turn 50. And I was like, oh, I'm so relieved because I never know how old I am. He did the math and he was like, you will turn 50 on an even year. That's how you will know.
That's how 1976 works.
Yeah, he explained 1976 to me. I was like, okay, I'm going to try, but I'm probably still just going to have to ask our friend Melanie constantly how old I am. It's great.
Yeah. Great. So we are all 48. We are Gen X. Today we're going to do a quick and dirty little podcast, and we wanted to enumerate some things that are just good for your mental health that don't necessarily require you pay a therapist lots of money and lots of sessions or anything. Just like solid things that you can do. And I even want to preface before we say them, like, these are not shoulds. Please don't let them turn into shoulds. My God, the shoulds are actually what caused all the struggle in the first place. So please don't turn them into shoulds. They're just easy things that you can do to make your mental health so much better. And they're free. They're not all free, but they're free-ish. But first we're going to do some chit chat. All right. So Lisa has poloed me a few times about like, who is Puff Daddy and what is happening?
I know roughly. I could not give you a song, although if I heard one, I know I would know one. But I'm like, something is afoot, and it seems bad. And what I knew you were the one to ask because I don't have time to piece it together.
Yeah. So P. Diddy is Sean Puffy Combs, and he has been a rapper producer since the 90s, like a long ass time. Yeah. Do you remember the band Danity Kane?
No.
Of course you don't.
I do want to clarify that if I see a picture of P. Diddy, I do know who he is.
Yeah.
And that, I know that face. I just don't know which songs, go with who.
I mean, he almost married J-Lo. Like, this is somebody who's been around for a long time. So the things that he is accused of: racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, transportation to engage in prostitution. Those are the official things that he is indicted for. He is currently in custody. By the time this podcast comes out, perhaps he will be in, probably not. Probably not. We're not going to go through the trial that fast. The thing that's so fascinating about this is that everybody has this is like a Harvey Weinstein situation in the sense that people have known for decades. And now I think it's fascinating to watch. Like, there's a Justin Bieber song about, like, I went to P. Diddy parties and now it hurt my soul and all this stuff, because Bieber was signed to Usher when he was a teenager, and then Usher signed him over to Diddy when he was like 18. And so he was going to P. Diddy parties when he was like an 18-year-old Canadian blonde child. And now his whole like Jesus phase makes so much sense to me, because like, not that everybody who believes in Jesus has to have had a traumatic past, but I think it helps. I think that there might be a correlation there.
I watched the Nickelodeon. Who was the Nickelodeon guy? I watched that documentary. The guy.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds similar. And I think that the kid who was involved in all of that, I can't remember the guy's name.
Drake Bell, right?
Yeah. I think he went through a Jesus phase. But it feels so similar with the like the celebrities and the Bieber. Yes. I was like, wait, is this what I just watched on? It's so insidious.
It's so insidious, right? And then you think about our generation and the Coreys, right? And that Corey Haim and Corey Feldman were both, I mean, it's gross.
It was like, and I assume P. Diddy has been doing this since the 90s. I mean, but it felt like the 80s. When you look back on the 80s, it was like, was there literally any bars on
No.
anything that was happening to these celebrity children. Like, were there any adults in the room at all? It was like a free-for-all.
Well, I have not watched it yet, but I really want. So Demi Lovato has a new documentary called Child Star, and they go around and interview so many child stars, Drew Barrymore, all these people, about what it was like, how much money your parents were making off of you, off of your cuteness, and then like, were there adults in the room? Was anybody paying attention to whether or not if your pants were on your body? And so, like, truly a free for all. So gross.
So gross. And if you read even the book, I'm Glad My Mother Died.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
That
I've
one
read
also. Like, nobody
But
was.
that's like the opposite end, though. That's like where
parent.
you did have a mother, you did have a parent with you, yet they were taking so much advantage.
Yeah,
And the
not
parent was,
looking
like,
out
farming
for
her out.
your interests at all,
Totally.
and leaving you in.
Totally.
I mean, she too was in the Nickelodeon stuff, saying like, "This is not right. This is not." And it's like
Totally.
there was no one to go to.
Yeah.
One of the kids in the Nickelodeon thing, there's this horribly sad thing about how they alienated him from his father because the dad like got it and like and was like protecting him, and like he would not let him be in a room alone ever. And then he had a horrible divorce from the mother, and the mother got custody. And he said, whatever you do, I don't care what you do, don't let this child be alone with these people ever. And of course she was like, oh, yeah, whatever. And then it's like,
Ugh.
And it's such a metaphor, I think, for like how this happens.
Yeah.
Somehow, again, going
The cult.
It's the cult. It's like, here, we're gonna all just assume everything is fine, and these kids are like, well, I guess this is fine. No one's protecting me from it. It's kind of fun to smoke cigarettes, I guess. But they talk about how wildly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Even if they weren't having horrific things done to them, like they all just had this. You can just feel the sense of like fear and overwhelm of like, I am in over my head. But everyone seems to be fine. I guess it's
right. Drew Barrymore was at Club 54 when she was 8, like getting wasted. It's like, who's in charge here?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Who's protecting these children? Yeah. It's really scary. Have you heard about the baby oil and dildo count, Lisa?
Is this related to P. Diddy?
Oh, no, in P. Diddy, one of P. Diddy's homes, they found 700 dildos. I'm just going to say that again. 700 dildos. And 1,000 bottles of baby oil. 1,000 bottles of baby oil. So even if he's not guilty, by whatever definition of guilty you have, what is happening in that house? And we don't kink shame in this family. Everybody's allowed to do, all adults are allowed to do with their bodies whatever they want. Right. But
that's a lot of people. And a lot, like, and when you look at a sex trafficking charge, I'm pretty sure all of that is going to be linked to trafficking. It's like, that is too very specific. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we also need to say that, like, the word sex trafficking, I think when we say the word sex trafficking, you think of like a kid who doesn't speak English, like being kidnapped in a Walmart bathroom or something. But like Pheromone, Pheromone Nemeka from RuPaul's Drag Race, she talks about how she's a trans woman and she was sex trafficked when she was like in her early 20s, late teens, early 20s. And all it was that trans woman brought Pheromone over to a hotel room in Vegas. And the guy said, here's your money. And the woman who brought Pheromone to the hotel room took the money. So like, it's not like
it happens to middle-class white children, like to
all the time.
It happens in Washington, D.C., right next door to where you and I met on K Street. I mean, back in my philanthropy days, back in the way back, I learned about all the nonprofits working on sex, and like it happens literally in the middle of America. And it's happening now. They're doing it online. Like I went to a training that my practice put on, and I remember thinking, this is a nightmare for autistic children online who can't like read social cues, reason, like kind of, not that they can't reason, but like get like intuitive social cues, understand people's intentions.
Yeah.
Those are all features of autism. And like, or any naive kid, which is what kid childhood is naivete.
Yeah, being very
I was
naive,
like,
yeah.
oh, this is bad, because they're also just luring them online
Yeah.
from like suburbia. I mean,
Yeah,
it's wild. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
not some weird random deep. I mean, it can be somebody next door at this point.
Yeah. So that's what's going on with P. Diddy. There is a fascinating clip of Keeping Up with the Kardashians circa like 2007 where Khloe talks about going to a P. Diddy party and says like everyone was butt naked. And it's like all of these things are resurfacing. There's an interview with Marky Mark Wahlberg and Kevin Hart where Marky Mark says something about like, oh, I think you have more lies than, you know, a P. Diddy party or something. And Kevin Hart's like, oh, we're going to shut that down. Like, it's fascinating to see how much people have known about this for how many celebrities go to his nasty ass white party in the Hamptons every summer, right? Like,
and you think they
everybody
know
knows.
Was the child thing out there? Because I mean, you can have sex parties and like, you know, that can be
sure.
Do you think was it clear that the child angle was known?
I don't know. I wouldn't put it past celebrities. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like these people are not our friends. And these people, you know, like everybody knew about Harvey Weinstein. Courtney Love is the only person who ever said anything about Harvey Weinstein. And she said it like in the early 2000s. So, I mean, everybody knows, you know, it's just that these people have power.
Right. Well, and money. And it's like, if you look at colonialism, it's like they view everybody just kind of becomes a commodity. Yeah. It's like they're not people. It's just commodities.
Money.
And it can sound like, but it's like once you just take echelons of power and start multiplying it, and, you know, everybody's kind of using people as commodities at some level in our society. We do. I mean, I do.
It's
like
the system.
And it's like, then you just extrapolate it up and it's like, oh, this can get very ugly. And everybody just goes, yeah, it's fine. Sure.
Yeah. So that happened. And then, Nemeka and I are going to explain to Lisa what Janet Jackson said. That's so sad.
I feel like I don't want to know. Okay.
You do. It's not, I mean, it sucks.
She was not, I thought we were going to go with, she was like aware of the P. Diddy thing. She's
I don't think so.
Oh, no.
Okay. I thought we were going to go to, she was
Janet's
like
aware of a lot.
Or something. Yeah. And I was like, oh, no. Okay. Well, I'm relieved then. Do tell me.
So she was being interviewed a few days ago, and they asked her about Kamala and Vice President Harris and Walz, and and Janet said, they asked her specifically. This is in the UK, by the way. Well, how Janet felt about Vice President Harris potentially becoming the first Black woman to be elected president, and Janet said she's not Black. That's what I heard. I heard that she's Indian. Her father's white. That's what I was told. I mean, I haven't watched the news in a few days. I was told that her father was white. It's like, oh, Janet.
What?
I know.
Yep.
Yeah. And then somebody issued an apology, and then somebody else said, like, she actually didn't issue that apology.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yes.
So the person who issued the apology was masquerading themselves as her manager.
Right.
But it wasn't the manager.
No.
So the apology seems totally unrelated to her. It was just like a con artist.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it was someone in her camp who
was like, let's take care of this.
Yeah, let's take care of this. Let's apologize.
Yeah.
So apologize, but then she didn't double down, but basically took down the post or whatever and said that was not my manager. You know, I don't know who that is, whatever. And
so avoided any ownership. I don't know what happened.
Yes.
Not addressing anything about what was actually said.
And to this day, it's been what, like a week or so?
Yeah, it's been a while.
She hasn't said anything.
Yeah.
So people are like, what's going on?
I mean, Carlo said it to me, and this is what I said. She was brought up in Fame, which is one kind of cult, and as a Jehovah's Witness, which is another kind of cult. So she is not. I would not go to Janet Jackson for political conversation, discourse. It's not who I would go to about views of the world,
right,
at large.
Someone made a good point. I read somewhere where Janet, if you think about it, actually was brought up privileged.
Yes.
Even though she is black.
Yeah, of
Well,
course.
I mean, right?
Because,
They-
she was a celebrity.
Yeah, they all
So
were.
she was always like in this sort of bubble.
Yeah.
You know? And so
Yeah.
there are certain things like she really does not know.
No, she was like 6 or when they
Yeah.
all got super famous. Like she's never
Like, you don't go to
She's-
school. I mean, that's what
Yeah.
it's like.
Right.
Mhm.
There is I talked to somebody who was like, celebrities really are not, they don't know things because they don't. And she was like, it makes it like, they seem very smart when they're acting. But she's like, you'd be surprised, but it makes sense. They all get pulled out of school and they're 8 years old. Like they're
Yeah.
not. And
She
I mean,
never
yeah,
went
they're
to
schooled
school.
on set, but like, I think we've established there probably were some people signing off on paperwork and looking the other way.
right.
But that is, it does make me wonder who wrote Rhythm Nation. Because like,
I mean, she probably did, but not alone. You know,
Right.
like
That
somebody's
was Jimmy
like,
Jam
there's some
and, you know.
and Terry Lewis. Yeah, Jimmy Jam and
Yeah.
Terry Lewis wrote all that music. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
it's. I mean, she's. I always think about it in terms of like 200 years ago. You would not go to the people who always lived within the palace walls for a lot of insight into the systems of oppression, right? And that's modern day celebrities are people who, and if anybody has always lived within the palace walls, it's Janet Jackson. She was the she's not the youngest Jackson, but she's almost the youngest Jackson.
Yeah.
So like this is not the person. It did remind me though, years ago, Carlo and I were at this party with some boomers, and we mentioned something about Kamala Harris being black, and they were like, "She's black? I thought her dad was Jamaican." And we were like, "Have you met Jamaican people? Have you been to Jamaica? Do you know?"
Do
It was
people
like-
think black means African American? Is that what is happening?
I think they do.
Yeah.
There
I
is,
think
so
they-
it's that
they think-
differentiation, which happens in like all communities, but this is like a really literal.
Yeah.
I've never heard it. I mean, I've heard people differentiate African American, like Jamaican, or, I mean, sure, but I've never heard the like black is only African American. That is
African-American.
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Mm.
It was wild. I was like,
Yeah.
Say
And
more.
also another thing I read was that apparently Randy
Yeah.
is her manager.
Oh.
And Randy is sort of a Trump supporter
Yeah.
and believes all the QAnon nonsense
That tracks.
bullshit. So
she's out here doing a concert that I went to about Rhythm Nation, possibly being a QAnon. How does that? I mean, what I was gonna say about P. Diddy too is like the cognitive dissonance that we all
Completely.
must, right? I mean, when you think about how people have trouble coming to terms with like their mother being problematic,
Right.
and it's like we're supposed to then look at these people with overwhelming talent, ability, money, fame, credibility in certain every stature of American success, and then be like, they're kind of not good or
They're-
not smart, or and you've been sold this package.
Right.
Like it's like brain breaking.
It is brain breaking, especially in celebrity culture, because we are and we're trying not to. We are literally sold the idea that we're meant to look up to them. And then, when you recognize that, like, they're not smarter than you. They don't.
And they're often doing very bad things with not good motivation. And it's
Correct.
like this idea of like, this is a role model that Taylor Swift can convert one tweet into what, almost 500,000 or half like 300,000 registered voters, which is, I mean, fine. And it's like that she can do that. And like people who actually know things can't do that. I'm not saying I don't know what Taylor Swift knows, but I don't suspect it's like deep analysis. You know what I mean? It's like that's not
She's
great.
Not a poli-sci professor.
Great for where we're looking for our like compass around things. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's like who's she gathering around her when she makes her decisions, right? I don't think it's like Harvard or, like global leaders from different places and that are scholars in their field.
Right?
Like, oh my God.
Her boyfriend is constantly concussed, of course. Like, who do you think she's talking to most of the time? Hopefully not him, but maybe him. He doesn't seem dumb completely. Well, speaking of such things, I have a story. So you guys know that my life partner and I watch terrible television, and one of the things that we watch is Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So awful and amazing. We went back, and it is season 6 reunion. So just go with me. I know this is a long intro, but just go with me. It's Lisa Vanderpump. This is like 10 years ago, by the way. Lisa Vanderpump, Kyle Richards. Dorit's not on it yet. Dorit is so terrible. I can't wait for Lisa to get to know Dorit. She is awful. And then there's this whole thing going on about how and they all hate Lisa Vanderpump, kind of, because she has the most money and she's British and she doesn't really care. And they are all just so desperate. So I sent this video to Lisa because we were watching it, and it made my skin crawl. It got me so activated because they're at the reunion, and Eileen, also terrible, Eileen Davidson, she goes to Lisa Vanderpump and she's like, but you never tell us anything. You don't share anything with us. And you mentioned on your blog how you were in an abusive relationship when you were younger. And Lisa's like, yeah, I was. And Andy Cohen is pure evil, by the way. He's like, when were you in an abusive relationship? And Lisa Vanderpump's like, I don't really want to talk. Lisa Vanderpump is like 60 years old. She doesn't need to be doing this. And they like coerce her into crying and sharing this piece of her life. And then everybody is like applauding her and like, see, now we feel so much closer to you because you shared this trauma with us. And I was like, this is group therapy that I've been in. I have been in these group therapies where I am coerced into crying or sharing my trauma or connecting to my trauma that I don't want to be connecting to. And that makes everybody else feel better. And then Lisa, you said something that was so brilliant, which is, who is that for? Is that for Lisa Vanderpump? No, it's not. And so of course, Lisa and I went down a whole rabbit hole around like, this is group therapy. This is a lot of very
not all group therapy. It's not how I do group therapy now. And the training we do, it is the training that we do. I could not watch it. I was so I think I watched 3 lines and I poloed you back and I was like, I'm out. I've seen every reenactment. I couldn't. I was so angry. Yeah. And I was like, I have been in this situation. I have been in this group. I have been trained to do this to people. And that's like gross. And the thing that triggered me was because there's a piece before she confesses. I mean, what do we even want to call it, before she talks about this thing she doesn't want to talk about, where somebody in the group, I don't know who, goes, I'm so angry with you. I'm so offended. No, I'm so offended by you. He's like, what did I mean, she's literally just sitting there doing nothing. She's just sitting there.
It's fucking Eileen.
Exactly how we're trained. This is exactly how therapy groups start in these training circles. Is somebody randomly is just mad about something that makes no sense. And then it becomes the target's problem. So she's like, I'm so offended by you. And she's like, what? And she's like, you don't open up to us. You're not vulnerable. It's like, why would I not be vulnerable?
What do you think I don't want to open up to?
You're not vulnerable. And she's offended and angry because this woman hasn't talked about this abusive thing from like 1,000 million years ago.
From literally 50 years ago.
Our training. The number of times I have heard that, I was like, I cannot anymore. And it's so maddening. And this idea that it's like you owe people to be appreciated. And she had the right instinct to be like, I'm not sharing anything with you people, which is how I would always sit in these groups. I was always like, I don't like any of you. What is this? Like, I did have that wherewithal. And I will say this, I did a group after I got out of that indoctrination and I saw people do much better group therapy leadership. And one of my cringe moments that I'll reveal is that what I learned in that group is that a good therapist will say, you don't have to share anything you don't want to share. And that was a revelation to me. I was probably 7, 8. How far was I into my career where I was like, oh, that's good therapy. Not making someone divulge something that they're not comfortable, literally. Right. And I went in, I then led a group at this indoctrinated place because I wasn't fully out yet. And I did that where I was like, I like your instinct to protect yourself. Good for you.
Yes.
The women in that group were like having like, they were like, I've never seen anyone do that. What is that? What are you talking about? I think
Giving someone agency
that
over their own
feels-
vulnerability.
yeah. I mean, Paula, the level of shock was disturbing. It was, but that's how that is good. The good therapy was pummeling somebody to get some, which I never went full into, but I was disturbed by seeing someone boundaried and being like, oh, you can do that. And it was like a recognition because I was like, I always kind of felt like that's what, but I mean, I didn't always that. And what people don't realize is that when she was crying, that wasn't her.
No.
That was her picking up this gross vampire-y energy, and she's crying because she feels victimized.
Yes.
She's crying because she's been forced to do something she doesn't want to do. But what it looks like is we are healing you because you were talking about this trauma. She's not sad about the trauma. She's sad because her boundary has been walked over, but it gets conflated. And then she's sitting there thinking, well, I guess this was like a really powerful intervention.
Oh, I guess I'm healed of something somehow.
Thus it begins.
Yes.
I was like, I can't. Maybe I'll go back and watch the next 3 lines in about 3 weeks when I've recovered. But if you want to know how therapists get trained in group therapy, watch that episode.
It's horrifying. I couldn't sleep. This is what Carlo puts on this while I get ready for bed, which is a 75-step process for me getting ready for bed. So I'm like walking in and out of the room, and then I stop when it starts, and I'm like yelling. He's like, do you need a moment? I'm like, this is what happens to this is what like really gross white supremacist therapy calls healing. Is this sort of like, you need to share yourself with us, and that's gonna who is that for? Who is that for? Do you think Lisa Vanderpump got anything out of that moment?
Do you think she might think she did, though? And that's what's disturbing, because the tears get confused, and that's how it begins.
Well, I don't think she did, because she wasn't on that show for much longer. And now she just produces other people crying on camera, getting drunk and crying on camera, and makes millions of dollars. Go, Lisa. She's not a good person, but she is my favorite.
It's disturbing, and it replicates, since we like to talk about how this replicates narcissistic abuse.
Yes.
Those people, that flavor of narcissistically abusive people that always have to be having the deep conversation.
Yes.
That everything has to be talked about for 4 hours. Every single thing every single tiny, aggression has to be like processed for 4 hours. And like, I need to know everything about you, and every conversation is like that. And a lot of people grew up with like that as parents, and they are like, well, I guess this is what it is. I mean, it really is messy. It's messy.
And it's not, and that's not love. That's not connection. That's just bleeding you dry. That's not actual connection. I mean, I will go so far as to say my life partner and Nemeka have been very good friends for 1,000 years now. How many times have you and Carlo gotten really deep and really talked about your
what?
Right?
It's like rare.
And you and I don't. Girlfriends don't do. I mean, we might say like, oh yeah, this thing. And I mean, I don't want to like pathologize if you have like broken down with your girlfriend talking about
no, of course,
really hard.
Sure.
But it is not, to me, the typical currency of a relationship with like a person who is not, that it's like, I must always be feeding on horrible tales from you.
Or like trauma bonding.
Yeah, or like that's what we're doing. It's like, if that's not your jam, I'm saying there's nothing wrong with you if that is your jam, if you do want to do that, and there's nothing wrong with you if you don't. But you should be allowed to choose.
Yes.
And the idea that that's the only relational currency, and that there is something closed off or frigid or problematic about you, that is not correct. It's not okay.
No, and it's not a metric by which you need to be measuring all of your relationships.
No. At all.
No. Well, and that leads us to what we're talking about today. So I love that, because that's a good transition into, here's like just some easy things that are good for your mental health, that don't require you crying in front of Andy Cohen, that are just nice and will help you exist in the year of our Lord 2024, which is pretty rough, in a better headspace. So we're going to take turns. So Lisa, you're first.
Blocking people.
Yes.
Oh my God. This is what we were texting about someone that you blocked, I believe.
Yes.
And I was like, I mean, people think getting high and drunk is fun, but have you tried blocking someone who is like horrible to be around and horrible to engage with? It is liberating. It is 2 seconds. If it is somebody, I mean, and I'm not, again, there's nothing wrong with you if you're like, I'm not ready to block my horrible mother yet. That's not what I'm fine. I'm not judging. But I'm saying if there is somebody that you're like, I don't need to interact with this person, interacting with them upsets me, I'm done. I don't, and just hit that. There is something so
it's amazing,
profoundly liberating about it, especially if they've done something like offensive to you or not aligned with your values or it's like, it's just, it can be quite delightful. And therapists are not supposed to encourage that, by the way. I was trained that like every relationship is forever or you are not a securely attached person. That's not true.
And we have to repair everything. No, I don't.
And feel the joy of the blocking. Just if you have it in you, try it out. It's a superpower.
I mean, it's like that meme. Sex is fine, but have you tried blocking people? That's truly, because that's the, you know, the way I and most non-men are trained to exist on the planet is to be completely overly prioritizing other people's existence and other people's experience of us at all times, and to block somebody. So I even if this person is mad at me, I'll never know. It's so great
because you don't care. And it's like women are supposed to be open, right? That even goes back to it's like you're supposed to be open to us. You're close it up. It is marvelous. Close everything up. Slam the door, lock it, throw away the key. You're going to love it.
Especially if they live in another geographical place. That means there's literally no way they can get to you. It's great.
Practice it with like some low-hanging fruit, right? Practice it with like somebody from when you were like 20 that's still in your phone that you think is an asshole and you stayed in touch with because you feel bad for them. Try it with them. Just feel high.
I do it on dumbass. I'm still on dumbass Facebook because, well, for lots of reasons, but I posted something. I posted that article about how it is proven that the happiest people on earth are women without spouses and without children. Amen. Amen. And I posted that on Facebook, and I got every biological male that would, had something to say. I was just like, block. It's so great to not even think about it. Block.
I actually have somebody who argued with me about a post. I need to
just block him.
Yeah, I need to. I don't know why I didn't take my own advice. I'm gonna go back.
When you think about
when I need a dopamine hit, I'm gonna block that guy.
Yes, good. Yes. All right. So my first one, as I'm looking at them, have a theme, but mine is like to just make something. Literally anything. Paint something. Bake a pie, even if it's terrible. Just make something. Remember that the opposite of depression and anxiety is not joy; it's expression. So make something. When I was a kid, my mom was really good about being like, do you need to make something? And I'd be like, yes. And she'd be like, great. What do you need? What kind of art supplies or whatever? And I would just make dumb shit all the time. A lot of the reason why I think we're depressed is because a lot of our jobs are what my friends and I call tippity tappity, where you're just like on a computer and you're like, I wrote 17 emails and I got paid, right? But there's no end result of that. You're putting forth energy and nothing is made of it. So just make something. Anything.
I love that. I love your mom did that.
Oh yeah, she was big on like taking every art class, every art supplies. Oh, absolutely. The other thing is to just change, like make something or change something. Like in The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron talks about like if you have restless energy, if you don't know what to do, just change out the pictures in the picture frames or rearrange your furniture or anything. Just like change something. It's so easy and it's so quick, and your head's going to get real busy about, because you were brought up in late stage capitalism, your head's going to get busy about the right thing, right? Like I have to do the right thing or I have to do something important. In The Artist's Way, she says, but you are what's important and your mental health is what's important. And in this moment, if you put the love seat over there for a week, great. It makes you feel better. It makes you feel like your living room is a fresher place. Great. So make something, change something, do something.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
No notes.
Lisa.
Oh, I'm next. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh, one of my favorites that I've discovered. I discovered this one, I think. So mine next one is planning trips. Does not have to. And actually, I would say if you can't take a trip right now, if you have little kids, not a lot of money, whatever, plan literally anything that you enjoy. I only became aware of this, I think, because of the pandemic when we all couldn't plan anything.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, is part of why we are all such a mess. There were many reasons to be a mess, but is part of it because I remember going through, it was like, okay, we're not planning anything because I was home with small kids. I was going nowhere. And then it was like, there was the phase where we could plan things, but then someone was always getting COVID. So you would cancel the thing that you planned. Yeah. And I remember going through a period after that of like, I'm not planning anything. I can't go through this. I'm giving up. We're never going to do anything ever again. Yeah. I mean, it was just, and that was when I started thinking, I think having something to look forward to in life.
Yes.
Is perhaps important. And now that I've gone on those couple, I've done my scuba trips. And I've realized the mental importance of having something on your calendar, especially the more routinized you are. I think the more you are maybe locked down with small kids, the more you have a job that is having some way out. Even if it's just a day that you're like, I'm going to take a Saturday and I'm going to go and do what we have to have an out of our routines. A trip in the future is great if you can do that. But have something. I've now figured out for me, I have to have something on my calendar that I look forward to all the time.
1,000%.
And if I don't, I will find it. So that
I love that. I will often at the end of it, when you have a session with the client and you get to like, it's not time to end yet, but we only have, 7 minutes or whatever. I will do that. Like, okay, what do you have to look forward to? And just like have people enumerate things. So I know that they have things because it is absolutely important. Yeah.
I'm stealing that. I love that.
Steal it.
Because I never know what to do with the last 3 minutes or whatever. You're like, this is awkward.
Okay, what are we looking
forward to? I'm stealing it. I love it.
Yeah. What's on the calendar? What do you have to look forward to? Exactly. And if something's not until like February, you're like, oh, okay, we need something this month. What do you have to look forward to this month? Great. Mine kind of piggybacks on that, and that's just like go outside. And again, you don't have to run. You don't have to do push-ups outside. You don't have to fucking do power yoga.
That is not what the outside is for. It turns out.
No, it turns out you could just be outside. I mean, it sounds so trite, but honestly, like what the children say, touch grass. I swear to Christ, we have to go outside. I watched, it reminds me of Carlo and I watched Will and Harper on Friday night. Have you heard of this? This is the movie. It's so good. It's a documentary. It's Will Ferrell, and Will Ferrell's best friend comes out as a trans woman at 61 years old. She used to be like the head writer at SNL when Will Ferrell was at SNL. And then so they decide to go on a cross-country trip because this is something that Harper is her name. She used to do before she transitioned, but now she's afraid to like go to a dive bar in Oklahoma by herself, obviously, or relatively obviously. And so anyway, but so much of it is them just being outside together. And they have these like shitty Walmart chairs that they just like, plop anywhere and just like sit and just be outside and, drink shitty Nat Bows or some shit. But anyway, it's like the outsideness is so important. We forget that we are supposed to be outside like a lot.
All the time. When I look back on my time in Benin, where I slept inside, but I showered outside. I love showering.
Outdoor shower.
Outside. Superior to all other showers. Like,
Lisa, another reason why you have to come to Palm Springs, we all have outdoor showers.
We all have outdoor showers. I'm considering getting one even in Maryland just for the 3 months I could use it.
Good.
When I look back on that time, what I always remember is I was always outside. Like
outside.
The sky, the stars. It's so, and it's really an unfortunate function of our culture how inside we are all the time.
So, yeah. I don't think you can be sane and be inside all the time. I don't think. There's a reason why they only give prisoners an hour outside a day. It's because it's punishment. Yeah. So you have to go smell outside. Moving here, when it's nice outside, after I finish my clients, I will go and lay on the grass with the babies, with the dogs. I don't have babies, with the dogs. And it's all I want to do. It's so great.
I love it. My next one is it's a cousin to blocking people.
Yes.
It's leaving things.
Yes.
Just
Preach.
not doing them anymore, which I believe it was my 2023 project. I looked because I realized there was something I overstayed in. It went very badly. And I remember saying to someone, I forgot that I could leave. I could just leave because I had been so indoctrinated by so many things in my life that leaving is a bad thing to do. It's like abandoning, it's mean, it's whatever. It literally didn't occur to me that like you can just, if it's voluntary, I can't leave my children, but like,
unfortunately,
you can just leave. And I made a list and just left things in 2023. And what I want to say, I continue to leave things. I'm like, ooh, and now I get excited. I'm like, ooh, is this turning into something I could leave? Wait a minute. Hold on.
Love that.
And what I want to say about that is I was getting routinely sick every 2 months. Now.
Oh, yeah.
Now, my children got older. There could be other variables, but I don't think so. It stopped when I left.
Yes.
All the things that felt bad to me, including like therapy-esque groups, even one that was like, you know, kind of okay. But like, I think I left them all and I don't get sick anymore. It just doesn't happen. Like, I think you have to realize that like your immune system is responding to the things around you. So even if it's a neutral or a like, I can tolerate this, or a, well, if I have to, or it's like, just try leaving and see how that feels, because we don't need, life is hard enough.
Yes.
We don't need to subject ourselves to voluntary things that are not necessary. Like, I have to deal with my kids' school. I have to deal with certain institutions. But there are so many things that if it's like not fun and not feeling good and feeding you, if you spend 8 hours plus in a job you hate, for God's sake, don't volunteer.
Yes.
For other, it's like, just try leaving. It's another high. You can just get high on leaving things. Just leave.
Yes.
Just goodbye.
Yes.
And it gets easier over time. You will have angst and guilt at first and lots of hemming and hawing. And then over time, you're just like, oh, I'm just going to leave. Sometimes I don't even tell anyone I've done it.
So good at it.
I'm so good at it. I write leaving letters for other people. I'm like, do you want me to leave for you? I'll write you the email.
Nice. Oh my God, I love that. It reminds me of one of my favorite things, which is God, or whatever, however you want to express that, can't give you what you want when you're holding on to what you don't, which is a 12-step thing. But I love that so much.
I love that because energetically, I think there's an energetic, and it's true. The minute I let the things go, and I would have been like, if they don't take up that much time, it's not a big deal. But energetically, the minute I let them go, it was like, oh, better things. They're a much better fit for me. Like, much better. It doesn't even have to be that thing is bad. It's just I was done. Like, it wasn't a good fit. And then, oh, look at all these other things. They're a much better fit. Look at that.
Well, and it's the vibration with which you're holding on to it, right? Am I holding on to this because it's really fun, or am I holding it out of a sense of obligation? And that vibration of obligation is exhausting. It's depleting.
Yes.
Especially when it's not true. Like, it's a made up obligation. That's a delusional obligation. It's not real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is great. Invigorating. Just leave.
Well,
often it saves you money to leave.
It does. Oh, in the long run, sure. Who knows what bullshit you won't buy on Amazon when you're not trying to make yourself feel better from a delusional obligation. Totally. My next one is very similar to the last one, which is lie on the floor. I am after teaching yoga for 25 years now. Is that true? 25? No, 24 years now. I am convinced that 90% of why yoga makes us feel good is the lying on the floor part. The rest of it's fine, but the lying on the floor part is so good, especially similar to what we were just saying about the going outside. You know, we sit on couches, we lay down on beds. They're delicious. I'm not getting rid of any of those things, but there is something about lying on the floor. Forest bathing. There was an article that came out the other day about like grounding. Like, white people put like wellness culture puts all these fucking words on things. It's just like, oh, what humans did thousands. thousands of years ago, grounding. Oh, do you mean lying on the ground? Do you mean lying down on the floor? Like, it's not that deep, right?
How
So-
can I sell the ground? Because we're not making enough money on land. How could we double make money on land?
Yeah. How can we put a big word on this thing that humans have done for thousands of years? Lying on the floor is one of the best things. My mom used to say, when my mom was a yoga teacher before she passed, she would say, like, if you roll out your yoga mat and you lie on it, you are doing yoga. That is yoga. So, like, anytime, and there are lots of times where I'm like, I just have to lie on the floor. And I do, and it's great. 1,000% try it. It's amazing.
I will say, I hadn't thought about this in a long time, but my oldest son, David, who we all know,
Yes.
His tantrums, he never had a screaming tantrum when he was a toddler. He just laid on the floor quietly staring at us in protest.
Great.
And now I'm like, maybe he was just regulating himself.
Maybe he was onto something.
His brother is a screamer, traditional tantrumer, but we were always like, David's tantrums were almost delightful because he would just lay on the floor. And maybe he was like, I have to regulate myself. I'm not okay.
I'm grounding.
Grounding.
I'm grounding. That's great. Good. Yeah. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. And you can bring your phone. You can still look at dumb Instagram or whatever, but just do it while lying on the floor. I promise you'll feel better.
Okay. This other one has to do with lying also, but a different kind. Lying about where you are.
Oh, I love this one.
This one comes up a lot in the work that I do with people who feel obligated to tell certain people where they are, even though they don't want to see those people. Like if they're going into town or and they're like, and it kind of, the stress of it can ruin people's experience of like the fun thing, because they're like, this person's going to be really upset if I don't tell them. But then if I tell them, it's like going to lead to this whole thing. Or if I don't tell them, it's going to lead to a whole thing. I mean, there's no way to win, as we know.
Yes.
And so I'm really trying to, bit unorthodox as a therapist. It feels like one of those things where I'm like, is the licensure board going to come after me? I'm always like, I believe that in this case, we should consider lying.
Yes.
And I think, I mean, it just, you don't have to tell. No one is entitled to information about you. And what I've been thinking about in the criteria of lying, because I do think, I don't want to instill a lack of integrity or any,
Totally.
but I've been playing with this idea of it's okay to lie when you are lying because someone's expectation of access to you is unreasonable.
Love that. Oh my God, I love that.
Criteria is I have them look at why they are lying. And it's never someone who lies in general. I'm always like,
totally.
Would you feel like you had to lie to me about this trip? Do you feel like you have to lie to, and it's always like, no, I just, but I think it's like if the expectation of access to you is unreasonable and it is going to cause a lot of like some kind of fight, conflict, no matter, it's like, then you're clear, just lie.
I love that.
It's right up there with leaving and blocking. It starts to feel really good.
I say it a little bit of a different way, but I might steal yours. I usually say we are always allowed to lie to the person with whom telling the truth would be more work for you.
Oh, that's
you are going to get right. If you're going to get punished for telling the truth and you're going to have to manage the reaction to telling the truth, then you're allowed to lie.
Awesome. Maybe those are the two criteria.
I think those are. I think maybe those are. Yeah. Totally.
We should patent that. If we're really American, we should patent that and put it in the DSM, and then we can sell it to Simple Practice or something.
And then we could do a year-long training and charge $20,000. Yeah.
And we'll just have everyone lay on the floor.
And we'll just repeat those things.
And charge and get Pessy to charge everyone
fantastic.
Great.
New business. This is basically all trainings, you guys. Yeah. I love that. All right. Mine is go to sleep. And I know this is difficult for some people, and like menopausal women, we struggle with sleep, and it's very similar to lying on the floor. But like that, have you ever heard that thing of like, if you hate everybody, eat. If you hate yourself, go to sleep. Have you heard that before?
No.
There's a thing that like, if you find yourself hating everybody else, eat. If you find yourself hating yourself, sleep. Brilliant.
Cure hangriness. It is the cure for hangriness.
Yes.
And the cure for clearly you're not thinking right because you don't like yourself. So your brain doesn't work.
Cure for self-loathing is go to bed. Go to sleep. Yeah.
That is genius.
I think it's pretty genius.
How am I a therapist? I don't know this.
I think it's pretty genius. And I think I cannot emphasize enough, and you guys know with my body liberation stuff, we hate rest. We so undervalue sleep. I diagnosed one of my friends once with sleep anorexia because he refused to fucking sleep. I was like, bitch, if you don't fucking sleep, I swear to Christ. Like, it's bad. We do not prioritize sleep. You have to sleep. Sleep is so important. You are microdosing death. It's very important for you to microdose death on a daily basis. We're supposed to do that in order to have sanity. Please sleep, nap, whatever you do. I will lay down and I'll just like say my little mantras. And if I fall all the way to sleep, that's great. If I don't fall, but get more sleep. Everybody needs more sleep. I love the studies that came out that show that women do need more sleep than men because women just naturally, whether, you know, socially or otherwise, are using more of their brain on a daily basis because usually we're keeping track of it. Right. So shocking. Shocking. But women need more sleep than non-men probably need more sleep than male people do. So yes, just go to sleep more and don't feel guilty about it. If you don't feel guilty when you have to piss, then you should not feel guilty when you have to sleep.
You are really throwing down the
Thank you.
Knowledge.
very, I mean, I don't think anyone's ever going to need therapy ever again.
We're putting ourselves out of
I don't feel guilty when I have to pee. I'm healed.
I'm healed. I think we're putting ourselves out of business with this episode, perhaps.
Yes, perhaps. This is not a good business model at all. The next one is trusting your intuition. This is one I literally had. I think we were talking about this one because I had like multiple sessions all week long. This is what happens now is I have these weird themes of sessions where everyone talks about the same. I don't know if it's because of our psychic abilities,
it's
the
podcast.
Planet. I don't know what's going on, but in a week I'll be like, I just had this conversation yesterday with someone.
Yeah. Oh my God. Totally.
And it gets better by Friday. You're really getting my best material.
Oh, by Friday I'm like on fire.
I've like workshopped it all week. But this one was people who were saying, I don't want to do this thing, or I have this instinct, but I think it's probably just my anxiety and I should do it anyway. And I was like, let's take a minute. Let's all take, this was happening a lot in groups. Yeah. And I was like, let's take a pause. And years ago, I would have been like, you're right. What anxiety does is it tells us we don't want to do that. Blah, blah, blah. That is what I would have done. But now that I am a psychic, intuitive type person, and I never now don't listen to my instincts, and when I do, I'm always wrong, is I say to people, there are things that our body and our nervous system know that our brain doesn't know yet. It's faster. Yes. And my theory about this is that often the anxiety that accompanies that instinct is the anxiety of your nervous system fearing that you're not going to listen to the intuition. Because you have been taught to gaslight yourself about your intuition. When I came up with that, it felt like it wasn't even me. It was like, I don't even know.
Channeling.
The group I was sitting with was like, whoa.
Channeling. She's channeling you guys.
Wild. I was like, I don't know who said that, guys, but I think I'm onto something. I was like, I think. And then I would say to everybody in the group, can everybody think back to every time they ignored their instincts and they made themselves do something? Nobody. This was in 3 different groups. Nobody could come up with a time that the instinct was wrong, especially about people that they wanted, people that they didn't want to be around. They knew, and there was not one exception. So that's science now. It's science. And
literal science.
I decided that for the next year, and I've encouraged my clients to pick some span of time and be like, just go with your instincts in that span of time. There's really not much to lose. I mean, sometimes there is if it's like a job, or I mean, it can be hard, but like, I'm like, if you just try a week, and just notice what happens. I will not ignore it anymore. I'm like, I'll walk away from anything just because it's like something feels off, because I have been in so many situations where it's like, oh, I knew going in it was going to be bad.
Why I love Gen Z and Gen Alpha so much is because they literally say all the time the vibes are off, and they mean it. And I love that, because
we were never taught.
Right?
Can you imagine in the 80s of the sex scandals being like, guys, at P. Diddy's house, I feel like the vibes are off. Your mom would be like, what is wrong with you? P. Diddy's amazing. Well, that may not have happened, but you can see. Like,
oh yeah, of course, right? If literally any of us had been able to be like, I don't know about Clinton, you guys, the vibes are a little bit off, then I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people who would have been better off. There's a lot of things that would have been better off, but I love that. Yes, just trust. Yes. And I love the test period. Like, let's just do a little experiment with yourself. Let's 72 hours.
And let's see what happens. Looking back, we're like, I really regret not doing. Right? It's like it never. Yeah. So I am a religious convert now. I am in the cult of listening to my intuition.
Well, we wanted to talk about it here in our Little Things episode, but then we're going to do a whole episode on intuition. And again, probably put ourselves out of business, because if everybody listened to their intuition, you don't need a therapist. You don't need anybody.
Right. Yeah. And we want to be careful of therapists that are eroding our intuition. Like
or telling us, no, it's
about
probably your anxiety. Yeah. Fuck off. Yeah, totally. Okay. My last one, and then Lisa and I have one that we're going to do together. My last one is read a novel. I swear. There's a reason why humans have been reading books for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. First of all, stories. I don't know if you know this, but stories can be used for good or evil, and our brain thinks in stories. So to consume delicious stories is so nourishing. And when we don't consume delicious stories, we make up bad ones about ourselves and other people. Hence QAnon. Right? So like all of those people need to, I don't know, read Lord of the Rings or whatever and have something for their little, I always say the brain is like a puppy and it needs something to chew on. Every QAnon person should have to read War and Peace or all of the Lord of the Rings series or something so that they have something for their little puppy brain to chew on. Reading a novel, there are few things that are as satisfying as reading a good story. I love that. Hate that feeling of when it's over and it's so satisfying to have read it, but also you're so sad it's over and you want to read it again for the first time. That the whole part of it, the whole system of it is just delicious. And I know that the people that I look up to the most in terms of seeming as if they have a delicious, rich internal life, love to read. And I love that about them. And I love talking about books with them. So read a good book. Ask somebody.
And I think the phones have stolen. I was a voracious reader. And I do worry. I worry for kids because they're all on these YouTubes and it's not stories, even like cartoons, at least. I'm like, at least it's kind of a story. Your brain is learning stories. And I say that without judgment, but it's like, it's worrisome because they're not. And with the phones, I stopped reading because it was either like you get doom scrolling and then you're like, oh, it's too late. Or it's like, I used to carry a book everywhere. And then read them like while you're waiting for your food to come, or whatever. And I've had to literally purchase a device so that I can make the apps go away on my phone so that I can. And I forgot how much reading is. For the last 10 years, I think I've only read like on vacation or and very rarely. I used to read and you forget how nourishing it is to like get in the mind of what someone else has created.
Yes.
It's like so good. It's so good for us, and I think it's better for our brains than the phones. I mean, we know definitely. That. Like creating images, visualizing. Yes, it's good. I don't know the science. I only do science on intuition.
Clearly,
but I bet there's science.
Yeah. So I just read it. I joined RuPaul's book club, which I think I've mentioned on here, and it's so fun because RuPaul himself sends me a book every month, and I just read whatever RuPaul tells me to read, and it's so far so good. It's great. Okay, and so the last one, which Lisa and I agree on, and this kind of encapsulates most of these, which is like, and encapsulates what we talked about before in terms of doing art, but like we all need to do more dumb, fun shit. And like, even if my favorite word is frivolity or frivolous. I love that word. Do things that your internalized capitalism part thinks is frivolous. Do those things and do them with whimsy and with as much motivation and inspiration as possible. because fun and amusement and joy, these are the highest vibrations. You can't, and this goes back to what you were saying, Lisa, about the relationships where you feel as though the other person really needs you to be like working through the hard things and having the tough conversations all the time. That is not that doesn't mean that that's a superior relationship. And that means with your relationship with yourself too. If you're always working on yourself in therapy and having hard conversations and processing your trauma, that doesn't make your relationship with yourself any better. Not if that's all you do. You also have to have fun. Do fun things.
And I think about it with couples. I really wish there was a space because I think couples therapy should really just be improv or something where it's like, because I mean, not all the time entirely, but this sitting and like churning on what is wrong and what is bad. I do not think it is good for human relationships overall. Like you and I don't do that. I don't do that with my friends. And like, I just think that it's like doing just, stupid, fun stuff will also make you like your partner more if they are capable of stupid, fun stuff. If not, that might be something to think about and look at. But like, if you really hate your partner also, try being like, let's just go do something fun and stupid. And
go play mini golf.
You might, like them a little bit more, because it's like you're in this grind of like working, and then we come, at least in DC, you come home, you talk about the news, we talk about the intellectual, whatever, and then you make dinner, and it's like it's all serious, and like that does not breed connective tissue between people, and we forget. We forget. Watch a comedy. Watch your cult documentaries, but also watch comedies.
Well, may I plug again, the Will and Harper movie is actually really funny too. It's brilliant. But fun stuff. I like that. I like fun being the connective tissue. I have to think, I can't tell you how many like couples clients or clients that I've worked with on sex stuff where they're like so serious about sex and they can't understand why they don't keep a boner and it's like, do you understand that sex is weird and it's supposed to be fun? You've forgotten that sex is supposed to be fun, and they're like, "Oh yeah, say more about that." I'm like, "Oh my god, we are insane, you guys!" It's when you think about it, it's really weird. So like, if you're not having fun, why? Like, it's not supposed to be super serious. If that's what you're taking serious, it's a very weird thing that we're doing with our bodies. Like, at least have fun with it. It's ridiculous.
We've made everything serious. Food is serious. We're counting everything. We're rigid. Exercise has become serious. Like everything is serious now.
I know.
And I think if you want your life to just a little thing you can do is just look around and be like, does this need to be serious? Really?
Totally.
Does it need to be serious? If it is serious, do I need to be here?
Right. Amusement is the highest vibration. If you can bring amusement into it, if you can bring frivolity into it, then that is sanity. That is what we're supposed to be doing. If you're not having, as I always say, if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.
Well, and the improv thing is if you're not having fun, you're the asshole, which I do not mean completely literally, but I do think it's like, where can we look at it and be like, if I'm not having fun, what do I need to change?
Yes.
Like, what can I change if I'm not enjoying my life and getting
Who do I need to block? Yes.
Yeah. Who do I need to block?
Yes. All right, guys. Well, that was fun. So those are some life-changing little things that you can do. And I think a couple of them we're going to go into deeper on later episodes, but we just wanted to have a quick and dirty little.
And if you try one, let us know how it goes. Let us know if we are correct. We don't know. Maybe these just work for us. You can let us know.
That's true. Maybe you don't like them. That's fine. So, or if you have life-changing little things that you started doing and it's changed your life, let us know. By all means, leave us some reviews on the Apple Podcasts and like and subscribe and all the things. Press the bell and press the thumbs up and do all those things. It would be great. And if you have a request for something you've always wanted to ask to grumpy old Gen X lady therapists, please, you can find me at Paula D. Atkinson on all the things. And Lisa is the Lisa K's on Instagram. And TikTok.
I have a therapy session with my consultant about that.
Oh yeah, we have social media.
My TikTok phobia. We're gonna try to work through it.
Okay,
the PR people.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye. This podcast and any written materials related to it represent the opinions of Paula Atkinson and Lisa Case, and our guests to the show, and any written materials. The content here should not be taken as medical advice. It is for informational and educational purposes only, and because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. In no way does listening, reading, emailing, or interacting on social media with our content establish a doctor-patient relationship.